once. Now it's okay.
Actually, okay. Okay, sir. Shall we start, sir?
Another 1 minute.
Okay, no problem. Today's resource person, Sri L. Jayaraman sir, and other managing committee members and fellow members. Very good evening to one and all. I welcome you all for the second day of virtual series of CPE program on public limited companies. Yesterday, hope you had fantastic session on deposits and related voting rights. Today also, sir is dealing with directors and audit committee, which is very important topic. Please do participate. Thank you, one and all. I request Jayaraman sir to present upon the today's topic.
So, good evening, my dear participants. Good evening, management committee members. It is my honor and privilege addressing all the chartered accountants at Vijayawada. Today, as per the topics given to me, first, we will discuss matters relating to appointment of directors with specific reference to public limited companies. Appointment of directors with specific reference to public limited companies. First, directors of the company. The point is common for both public as well as private companies. The first directors of the company, their name is specified in the articles of association of the company. It is written in very clear terms that Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, in case of public company, will be the first directors of the company. Fine, fair enough. Now, the procedure for appointment first directors is quite simple. No big discussion on that. Now, if the first directors are not appointed in the articles of association, then there is also all the subscribers to memorandum shall be deemed to be the first directors. In fact, that provision is not practically feasible because of the online filing which you have. So most of the cases, they insist who shall be the first directors of the company. So that point becomes irrelevant. The next issue is how long these first directors will hold office. The first directors appointed by the articles, how long they will hold office. A few of us are under a very wrong impression that the first directors will hold office up to the conclusion of the first AGM. Absolutely wrong. Nowhere in the Companies Act it is written. The first directors will not retire or vacate his office at the first AGM. Let us understand clearly. Then what will happen to these first directors? They go into the cycle of 152 subsection 6 and 7, which I will discuss later, by way of which some of these first directors may be non-rotational directors, they will not retire, and some of the directors may be retiring directors. So none of the first directors will vacate the office in the first AGM because of the reason that they are the first directors of the company. This you must understand clearly. So they will jump into 152 subsection 6 and 7. I will discuss that much later. This is all the story regarding first directors. Now, The second type of first directors, I told you, if you have not specified the names of the first directors in the articles of association, then I told you all the subscribers to memorandum shall be deemed to be the first directors. So that deemed first directors, what will happen to them? They will hold office up to first EGM. Look at the wording carefully. Up to the first extraordinary general meeting held prior to the holding of first AGM. Listen very carefully. The law says by not appointing the first directors in the articles of association, probably the subscribers to memorandum has behaved in a most irresponsible manner. Their sense of irresponsibility is reflected by the fact that you are not specified who are the first directors. So the law comes in and says all the subscribers to memorandum will be deemed to the first directors. But the story cannot continue for long. So the law says, come on, suppose if the company is incorporated on 1st January 2020, the first AGM is going to be held somewhere on 30th September 2020. The law says you must hold one EGM prior to the first AGM. Say we are holding the EGM, extraordinary general meeting, somewhere on 30th June. Then the law says on 30th June, all these first directors will vacate the office. Then new directors should be appointed under 160 route, which I'll discuss later. So this is what the law says. So the deemed first directors will hold office up to first EGM, held after incorporation, but prior to holding of first AGM. Then the new directors will be appointed in the first EGM under 160, and they will also go into the cycle of 152 subsection 6 and 7. So this is all the story regarding the first directors. Before I go into the story of 152 subsection 6 and 7, let us understand one point very clearly. What is the method by which you will enter the company? There are only two methods by which you will enter the company. One is the first director's route, which we discussed just now. And the first director's route is not available perennially. The moment a company is incorporated, that route is closed. Then what is the only method by which you become a director of the company? 160 route, which I am yet to discuss in a public company. So first, let us understand 152 subsection 6 and 7, which we are going to discuss now, relating to reappointment of retiring director, is not a method of appointment of director. First, let us think in our mind clearly. 152 subsection 6 and 7 is only a mechanism by which some of the directors retire by rotation and they are re-elected, and the story goes on, and some of them will not retire by rotation. I repeat again, 152 subsection 6 and 7 is not a method by which you appoint the director. So before entering 152 subsection 6 and 7, you are already a director of the company. How did you become a director? Either through the first director's route or through 160 route. This you must understand clearly. So this is what I have specified. So 152 subsection 6 and 7 is not a method of entry. A person can become a director only by two ways, first directors and 160 route. Having entered the company as a director, 152 subsection 6 and 7 is only a mechanism wherein some directors retire by rotation and some do not. Now I am entering 152 subsection 6 and 7. Now listen very carefully. The section 152 subsection 6 says, divide the total number of directors of a company into two categories, rotational, non-rotational. First point. Suppose there are 12 directors in a company. I'm talking of public company. The whole 152 subsection 6 and 7 will not apply to private company. So in a public company, if there are say 12 directors, divide all into two categories, either rotational, non-rotational. First point. How many? Who? All that we'll discuss later. Just divide them into two categories. All the directors in a public company, rotational, non-rotational. Second, who is a rotational director? Who is a rotational director? Listen very carefully. Rotational director is a director who occupies the office of director and holds office for some time. What period we'll discuss later. And he has to retire by rotation. He may be reappointed. Again, he holds office for some time. Again, he has to retire. Again, he may be reappointed. Like that, he will go into the cycle. This guy is called rotational director. Who is a non-rotational director? He will not go into the cycle. He will not retire by rotation. That much you remember. Never say non-rotational director or permanent directors and all that. There is no concept of permanent director in the present Companies Act. So rotational director is a person who will hold office for some time, retire by rotation, again hold office for some time, again retire by rotation, and the cycle goes on. He is called as rotational director. Who is a non-rotational director? As I told you, he will not go into the cycle. What will happen to them? I'll discuss later. And they are also not permanent directors. Next. How many shall be rotational directors? The law beautifully says not less than 2/3 of the total directors shall be rotational and they will retire by rotation. The remaining shall not retire by rotation. He did not say balance 1/3 because it will never come to 1/3. He simply says the balance will be non-rotational director. So while calculating rotational and non-rotational, we should not calculate non-rotational first. You first calculate rotational director, the balance, it will never come to 1/3 because of the fractions involved. The balance you have to treat as non-rotational director. Beautiful. Look at certain examples. Suppose there are 12 directors total. When the figure is multiple of 3, no subject of discussion. Obviously, 2/3 will be 8. 8 will be rotational director. The balance 4 will be non-rotational. If the figure is 11, the problem comes. Suppose if the figure is 11, come on, calculate and tell me. 11 into 2/3, 22 by 3. 22 by 3 means the figure comes to 7.67, 7.66. 7.66 shall we round off as 7 or 8? We should round off as 8 because 7.33, sorry. You should round off as 8 because what is the language used? Not less than 2/3. So here, no mathematical rule. Mathematical rule means what we will do up to 0.5, we'll ignore. More than 0.5, we'll round off that side. Here, any fraction, 7.33, 7.66, whatever it is, any fraction will be treated as the next number, not to the nearest number, because of the use of the word not less than 2/3. So 11 means 7.33 means 8, and the balance 3 will be non-rotational. Suppose the figure is 10. So 10 into 2/3, 10 into 2/3, that means what? 20 by 3. 20 by 3 means it comes to 6 point something. So it will be 7 and the balance will be 3. Like that, you shall do the calculation for 2/3 and the balance. So the point to be understood is because of the use of the words not less than 2/3, any fraction shall be rounded off to the next full number and should never be ignored. This point you have to keep in mind. Next. Next issue is, can all the directors be rotational? Yes, the law says not less than 2/3 must be rotational. If you want to write in your articles a figure more than 2/3, or all the directors will be rotational. The law gives you the opportunity to have some non-rotational director. If you don't want to have non-rotational director, that is your choice. That is your choice. Who is going to stop you? So let all the directors retire in the AGM and be re-elected. So all the directors can be rotational. Okay, you may write in the articles. The law only says not than 2/3 must be liable to retire by rotation. Right. Next one, how do you get the status of rotational, non-rotational director? First, we'll discuss how will you get the status of non-rotational director. Hey, given a free choice, would you like to be rotational or non-rotational? Obviously non-rotational. Why should I face the shareholders? So the law beautifully says, if you want to get the status of non-rotational director, it should be specified in the articles or in the resolution appointing you. Beautiful. See, the first directors are appointed in the articles. Just now I told you. So in the articles itself, you must state so-and-so by name or by designation or whatever it is. You can say the first directors will not retire by rotation. So you get the status of non-rotational director. Similarly, when the directors are appointed under 160 route, you must write in the resolution itself, resolve that Mr. Jayaraman B and D is hereby appointed under section 160 and he shall hold office which is not subject to retirement by rotation. So my point is, if you want to get the status of non-rotational director, it has to be specified. You won't automatically get that status. Specified where? Either in the articles or in the resolution appointing you. Beautiful matter ends there. Rotational director may be, so most of the articles provide that promoter director, managing director, whole-time director will get the status of non-rotational director. They just normally provide for that. Because after all, promoter director have invested their money, why should they face the shareholders and all? So you try to accommodate these guys in the non-rotational director slot. MD whole-time director also is for the beneficial to company. So he will also they need not face the shareholders. Rotational director may be specified, may not be specified, means what? Suppose you have entered a company and the resolution is not clear whether you are rotational or non-rotational. What is your status? Rotational only. Beautiful. So the confusion between rotational and non-rotational also is solved. Because if you want to get the status of non-rotational director, it is not automatic. It has to be specified either in the articles or resolution appointing them. So rotational director may be specified, may not be specified. So if you enter the company not sure, your status is only rotational director. Beautiful. This issue also solved. Now, how long this non-rotational director will hold office? He will not retire by rotation. So at the time of appointment itself, you say very clearly, he will hold office for his life. Beautiful. Maybe 10 years, 20 years until he dies. Or you specify the period of time. He will hold office up to 31st December 2025. I leave the choice to you. So he will not retire by rotation. So if you are not specified the time limit, he will just continue. That's all, non-rotational director. But listen, non-rotational director can also be removed under 169, removal of director. So non-rotational director is not a permanent director. I've been telling you a number of times, he will hold office which is not subject to retirement by rotation. That's all. He is not a permanent director. He can be removed under 169 following the provisions. Now, we discussed about non-rotational director. Not less than 2/3 must be rotational, balance will be non-rotational. How will be appointed? How long he will hold office? He should the appointment should be specified, all that. Let us now come to rotational director. Just now we discussed that not less than 2/3 must be rotational director. Now, even though he is a rotational director, don't be under the impression all the rotational director will retire at every AGM. Not necessary. So the law says at every AGM, 1/3 of the directors will retire by rotation. If the number is not multiple of 3, the number nearest to 1/3 shall actually retire. Beautiful. So here mathematical rule, here it did not say not less than 1/3. So if it comes to below 0.5, just ignore. Above 0.5, round it as 1. So practically what happens then, since they are not in multiple of 3, 0.33 you ignore it, 0.67 you treat as 1. Here mathematical rule. I repeat, while calculating the 2/3, no mathematical rule. While calculating this 1/3, definitely this mathematical rule will come for the rotational directors. Let us do some exercise. Suppose, let us say 9 is the rotational director. 9 is not total. In other words, 9 is the rotational director. Clear? Out of the rotational director, now the law says it is not necessary. All the rotational director may retire at every AGM, not necessary. He says 1/3, 3 will retire in the first year. Which 3? I'll tell you later. 3 will retire in the first year, 3 will retire in the second year, and the balance 3 will retire in the third year. Fair enough. Which 3 we'll discuss later. So if the figure is multiple of 3, the rotational director, if the figure is multiple of 3, no subject of discussion. Because 3 in the first year, 3 in the second year, 3 in the third year. Fair enough. Now listen. What is the law saying? Hey, you classify all the directors into rotational, non-rotational. Non-rotational director need not face the AGM. The rotational directors, let them face the AGM. Let them get the confidence of the members. And at the same time, the law says you don't make all the rotational directors to retire at every AGM. 1/3 will retire in the first year, 1/3 second year, 1/3 in the third year. From this, one more point, what do you understand? The rotational director will hold office for 3 years. Clear? In normal circumstances, unless they come in the fractions, the rotational director will hold office for 3 years. Right. Now, the problem. If the figure is 8, eight are rotational directors, then 8 by 3, you get how much? 2.67. So 3 in the first year, listen carefully. 3 in the second year. Now, only 2 is available, isn't it? So the balance 2 you put there. I repeat again, how do the calculation? 3 in the first year, 3 in the second year, and the balance 2 in the third year. Now here is the catch point. See, for calculation purpose, for understanding purpose, I simply told you 3 in the first year, 3 in the second year, and 2 in the third year. Now I am standing in the third year. When I do the calculation independently in the third year, it comes to 2.67. So 3 also will retire in the third year, isn't it? So 3 will retire in the third year. So now the question arises, which 3? That first fellow, practically he will hold office only for 2 years. Are you getting the point? Normally, the rotational director, I told you, will hold office for 3 years. But sometimes it so happens, the horoscope of one director is so bad, if he comes in that fraction, he may hold office for 2 years only, as I gave in the example. Now let us say the figure is 7. So 7 means comes how much? It comes to 2.33. That means 2 only in the first year, 2 in the second year, 3 in the third year. Just as here, for your understanding, I simply said to close the issue, 3 in the third year. But now I am standing in the third year. In the third year also, I will do the calculation. You get it? So when I do the calculation in the third year, I get 2. So practically, if 2 only will retire in the third year, and that one fellow, his horoscope is so good, he will retire once in 4 years. Are you getting? Come back to the statement. Normally, rotational directors will hold office for 3 years. Sometimes it so happens, if you come in the front, there is a possibility you may retire after 2 years, or you may retire after 4 years also. Keep those points in mind. So let us do some calculations. Suppose that these are rotational directors, not total. Total rotational directors. 3 in the first year, 3 in the second year, 3 in the third year. If the figure is 8, I told you. But practically what happens? 3, 3 and 3 only will happen. So 7 means 2, 2 and 3. But practically just now I told you, 2 only will retire every year. And that one fellow will hold office. So 6 means 2, 2, 2. 5 means 2, 2 and 1. But practically 2 will retire in the third year, the one fellow. 4 means 1, 1 and 2, 1, 1. 3 means, see, in 3 what happens? 1 will retire the first year, 1 second year, the third year. So every 3 years. But if the figure is 2, if there's a public company, rotational directors, total directors may be 3. So 2/3 may come to 2. That means 1 year only he will hold office. Are you getting? So he will hold office next year. Then after that, like that, it goes on. So come to the statement. Normally, rotational directors will hold office for 3 years. Because of the fraction, it may be possible they'll hold office for 2 years or even 4 years or even 1 year only after the total. Like that, this is how we do the calculation. Next question is, can all the directors retire at every AGM? The department came with the clarification, why not? You write in your articles an extreme situation. What is the extreme situation? You may write in the articles that all the 12 directors may be rotational and all of them will retire at every AGM. That is your problem. For administrative convenience, the law says 1/3 will retire the first year, 1/3 second year, 1/3 the third year. If you don't want to take away the benefits given here, you write in the articles, all will be rotational and all will retire at every AGM. That is left to you. So the articles may provide all will retire. Now we have discussed how many are rotational, non-rotational directors, and out of rotational directors, how many will retire in every AGM. So now understand this sentence. I think you agree with me. All rotational directors are retiring directors, but all rotational directors are not retiring directors, but all retiring directors are rotational director. Yes. Maybe you are a rotational director, but you may not retire this year. You only remain a rotational director, you may not. So when I say retiring director, who is a retiring director? He is not only rotational, he will also retire at the AGM. Sorry. Now we have identified who are the 3 directors who will retire in this AGM. Now this is also addressed by law. Now tell me, if the issue is not addressed, what will happen? Come on, if the issue is not addressed, what will happen? The 3 directors will fight among themselves because the fear, the shareholders may appoint or may not appoint him. So the fear in them. So they will fight with them. No, you retire, yeah, you retire. The law says beautifully, those who hold the longest in office since their last appointment shall retire first. FIFO method. First in, first out. So all the directors may not be appointed on the same day. So whoever is holding longest in office, ask them to retire first. Next, there could be a situation 2 or more directors were appointed on the same day. Then in that case, if they are appointed on the same day, in the absence of agreement among themselves, the retirement will be decided by draw of lots. Look at the language. After all, now for example, let me say, all the 4 were appointed on the same day. Out of 4, 3 has to retire. If they agree, excellent. In the absence of agreement, don't fight like cats and dogs. Be graceful enough and say, I will retire, it all fine. But still, if they are fighting, there is no agreement, then you put the 4 slips, the chairman will write the names and remove 3. It will be decided by draw of lots. So now we are identified who are all the retiring directors in the AGM. Next. This is the first part of the story. Now, what is all this going on so far? What is the law trying to tell you? Divide all the directors into rotational, non-rotational. Rotational, non-rotational has to be specified. So much fellows has to, rotational director will hold office for 3 years, 1/3. What is all this? Look at the sentence I framed. 152 subsection 6 is a mechanism available to shareholders of a public company to weed out inefficient, non-performing directors in an honorable manner. Beautiful. So far in the discussion, what law is saying, hey, look, it is a public company. Public money has come inside. So the law says, okay, we have appointed all the 12 directors initially. Maybe first directors are 160 root, thinking that they are all stalwarts. Listen carefully. They are all stalwarts. They are all, they are all Mukesh Ambani and other stalwarts. But then later on, it turned out that some of the directors are Ramlinga Rajus, who the funds of the company, or whose performance and efficiency is a big question mark. So 152 subsection 6 is a mechanism in the hands of the shareholders of a public company to weed out all these inefficient and non-performing directors. See how the law beautifully says, hey, do one thing. 2/3 should be rotational, the balance will be non-rotational. Who will be non-rotational? Yeah, he's a promoter director. He has invested money. Don't touch him. Let him not stand in the front of shareholders. Then nominee directors, managing director, full-time director, okay, give them the status of non-rotational. Rest everything, come in the queue. Don't push each other. That's it. Now 1/3 will retire this year, 1/3 next year, 1/3 in the third year. So they have to face the shareholders. If the shareholders are happy with the performance and efficiency, they will reappoint them. Otherwise, in a very dignified manner, they will send them home. That's all. It is not removal of the director. If the shareholder does not reappoint him by passing a resolution, it's a honorable method of sending them home. I used to tell my students, what is that honorable method? You put a big bottu okati petti, వాడికి కృష్ణా స్వీట్స్ ఒక ప్యాకెట్ ఇచ్చి దాన్ని ఒక దండ వేసి ఒక మూల తాళ పిప్పి డుమ్ 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 అని కార్లో పెట్టి పోరా ఇంటికి. నువ్వు ఘనకార్యం డైరెక్టర్ అయ్యి మా ప్రాణం తీసా వెళ్ళరా. దట్స్ ఇట్. ఇట్ ఈస్ అ వెరీ హానరబుల్ వే ఆఫ్ throwing out all this inefficient and non-performing directors in a honorable way. This is what they have put 152 subsection 6 mechanism. The second part of the story, 152 subsection 7. Now the matter shifts to the AGM. What will happen in the AGM? Three things can happen in AGM. Reappoint the retiring director. Once the shareholders are happy with his performance, come on, reappoint him. Second option, shareholders have decided, that's all, he should go home. Then appoint some other person in his place. 160 route, I'll tell them later. Special notice method and all you have to follow. So finish off the stalemate by reappointing the retiring director or appointing some other person in his place. Or third option, via media option, you don't reappoint the retiring director, don't appoint some other person, just pass a resolution not to fill up the vacancy. Via media option. Excellent. I don't want to take a new fellow. I don't want this old fellow. Let the vacancy remain. Any of the three, the shareholders will take a decision at the AGM. The law beautifully says, if the shareholders don't take any of the three decisions in the AGM of a public company, the meeting stands adjourned. Same day, same time and place, next week. If that next week is a national holiday, the next day, which is not a national holiday. What is all this hangama going on? What is all adjourning the meeting for 1 week? This is some unwritten law you must understand. The shareholders are the confused state of mind. The confused state of mind is reflected by the fact they are not reappointing him, they are not appointing some other person, they are not passing a resolution not to fill up the vacancy. Practically, let me tell you, some rumors about the retiring director. What rumors? He has siphoned away the funds of the company. He has diverted the business opportunities. He has caused some direct, indirect loss to the company. Some rumors in the market. This is one part of the story. The second part of the story is the director, some of them, some shareholders feel the director is an asset to the company. Though he has indulged some unlawful activities, he has brought a lot of orders for the company. So now you understand the dilemma in the minds of the shareholders. When you are in the agitated state of mind, your decisions may go wrong. So generally what happens when we shout at each other, close friends also, what you say, okay, we'll discuss later. Because decision in agitated mind will go wrong. That's why a lot of adjournments you find in the court of law also. So what the law says, you are in a confused state of mind, you are not able to take a decision, please adjourn for 1 week. Over. Now in the adjourned meeting, what will happen? Now 1 week they have adjourned, the scene now shifts to adjourned meeting. Now in the adjourned meeting, so during this 1 week, what will happen? Maybe some lobbying will take place. Those things are not put in law. Maybe the retiring director will try to convince some of the shareholders, may give the explanation. That is all not in law. So now they are reassembled after 1 week. Same three things. in the appoint the retiring director at least in this meeting, or appoint some other person in his place, or at least now you pass a resolution not to fill up the vacancy. If in the adjourned meeting also you don't take any of these decisions, the law feels the stalemate shall not continue. Enough is enough. Enough opportunity was given to the shareholders. So the law feels the retiring director shall be deemed to be reappointed. No resolution, nothing. I've given you opportunity. The retiring director is deemed to be reappointed unless. In these cases, no deemed reappointment. Then what will happen to the vacancy? It will continue. If these 5 situations are not there, the law says the retiring director is deemed to be reappointed. So what are the 5 situations? First, I want to give this fellow deemed reappointment. But what happened? In the meantime, he is disqualified. Under section 167, he has been disqualified. Then I cannot give him deemed reappointment. Okay, gone. Next, he has expressed his unwillingness to be reappointed. Hey, what happened? Practically, let us understand what happens. He is a director of a company, isn't it? He is not a chaprasi. He is not a chaukidar. There is something called name, fame, status, honor, prestige, for which we all live. I am now 60. Life has taught me one thing. 100 good things you do, no one appreciates you. One mistake you do, you are shown the door. That's it. I've been in service industry now for the last 40 years, one as a practicing company secretary, one as a faculty. As a faculty, let me admit today that I'm always afraid of a student, because student is one person who may not know the subject. He will come and listen to you for 10 minutes. It doesn't require more time. He may not know the subject. 10 minutes he will come and listen to you and give his unbiased judgment. Are Vestra vidu Hyderabad nunchi vachadu emo kathalu cheptunnadu. That's it. The same student, if he is happy with the faculty, he will sit on the floor and listen to him. So this is what life has taught me. No games with the CA students, whether it is an inter-level or final level. Unless you are authority in the subject, you should not climb the dais. It takes years and years, brick by brick, to build our goodwill. But when it collapses like a brick of cards. This is what life has taught me. So what the idea seems to be that you should have reappointed me in the original AG. Adedo na paina allegations petti, you adjourned the meeting for 1 week. Sir, ponile and chuste. In the adjourned meeting also, you are not appointing me in an honorable way. You should pass a resolution, appoint him. In the adjourned meeting also, what has happened? You are not reappointed me. You are not appointed some other person. The meeting is for resolved not to fill up the vacancy. In law gives a reappointment. I am not positively reappointed. I am reappointed because of law. I don't want this reappointment. So what he is saying? That fellow says, I expressed his unwillingness to reappointed. Idendra idi? Ne uchi kurchovala seat lo. That's it. Third, a resolution for reappointment was put to vote and lost. Look at the fun. This fellow, somehow in the adjourned meeting, he wanted reappointment. He said, no, don't deem reappointment. Honor and status and prestige is important. So he told the chairman, come on, put the resolution to vote. Resolution, chairman said, okay, those in favor, raise your hands. No fellow raising the hands. Those against the resolution, raise your hands. Every fellow raising the hands. Now this fellow says, no, cancel. What did he cancel? If you keep quiet, you would have got automatic deemed reappointment. But here what has happened? Shareholders have expressly disapproved your appointment. Then how can I give deemed reappointment? A resolution, ordinary or special, is required. We'll discuss the next 2 points slightly later. So this is the second part of the story. Come back. At the AGM, 3 things should happen. Otherwise, the meeting stands adjourned for 1 week. In the adjourned meeting also, again, these 3, if it happens, fine. If 3 things does not happen, the retiring director without resolution is deemed to be reappointed unless in these 5 cases, no deemed reappointment. What will happen to the vacancy? It will simply remain. This is the story of rotational, non-rotational director in case of a public company, whether listed or not. Now, let me tell you very practical problem. Please see, a company, say, all directors, including 3 additional directors. How many of them may be rotational and how many will retire at the forthcoming AGM? Some of you might have done the problem like this. Total is 12, divide into 8 and 4 and 3, 3, 3. Wrong. Additional directors should be removed from the total itself. The second portion is the correct answer. Because additional director is additional director. He is neither rotational, non-rotational, because he will vacate the office at the forthcoming AGM. So what you should do, from the total, you must remove additional directors. Anyhow, they are vacating the office at the AGM. At the start of AGM, they are not the directors. So 9 are the total directors. 2/3 is 6 rotational. 3 will be non-rotational. Out of 6, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 2 will retire in the first AGM, 2 in the second AGM, 2 in the third AGM. This is how it is. Right. Now, so for while calculating the total, who will be deducted? Just now told you additional director, independent director, small shareholders director, where he has told in the concerned sections he has told. So independent director, small shareholders director, they will all be deducted in the total. Now, what about the nominee directors? Hey, very interesting. Nominee directors will not be deducted from the total. Nominee directors will be included in the total, but they will get non-rotational director slot. This you must understand practically. So nominee directors don't remove from the total. They will come in the total, but they won't get the status of rotational. Why should they face the shareholders? The agreement itself with the financial institutions and banks, they will say, you must give me non-rotational director slot. Now, another issue. Please see, practically see, a company has 15 directors and they want to, it's a public company, they want to appoint one nominee director for financial institution. What is the procedure to be adopted? We'll start with the presumption that all the 15 directors are holding office. Now, what shall we do? Now, see, what shall we do practically? What shall we do practically? See, the position is like this. There are already 15 directors. Out of 15, rotational are 10, 5 are non-rotational. Can we increase the number of directors to 16 and directly appoint this non-rotational director? No. If you do like this, what will happen? It's a blatant violation of 152 subsection 6(7), which says out of the total directors, not less than 2/3 must be rotational directors. So here less than 2/3 are rotational. So what shall we do now? You have no other option. Increase the directors to 18, whether you like or not. Appoint 2 rotational directors. Then only you will get the slot of non-rotational director. Are you getting it? So this is how you have to interlink the section. So now practically come back. So when I said what you have to do, first amend the articles to increase to 18 from 15 to 18. Then more than 15 special resolution has to be passed. We discussed that in private companies also. Then appoint 2 rotational directors and then you have to appoint the nominee director. So this is how to interlink the section and try to understand. Next, retiring director non-holding of AGM. See, AGM, there's a last date, something called last date of holding the AGM. Of course, this year they have extended up to 31st December. So there's something called AGM was not held. If the AGM is not held, don't you think, if the AGM is not held, don't you think the retiring director is taking advantage of that? Yes. So the department came out with the clarification very clearly. What is the clarification? The retiring director shall hold office only up to last year in which AGM should have been held. Beautiful. If 30th September is the last date for holding the AGM and you are not taken any ROC approval and the AGM was not held, ask all this retiring director to go home. But there is one Ambika T-Mills case. In special circumstances, the retiring director may continue because there cannot be a vacuum in the board. For example, let us say in a company ABC Limited, let us say all the 12 directors are rotational directors, all will retire by rotation, and you are not held the AGM, all will vacate the office at the AGM. I don't want such situation. If that is that extraordinary situation, then this department circular will not apply in that case. This is all the story of first directors and 152 subsection 6 and 7. By means it's a mechanism by which the law divides the directors into rotational and non-rotational. The rotational director will hold office of some period of time. They may be appointed. They will continue like that. They will go into the cycle. And non-rotational director will not go into the cycle. So this you must listen, understand, implement very carefully. We will now move to section 160. Appointment of a person as director other than retiring director. This 160 was not applicable in a private company. So in a private company, how do you appoint the directors? Directly in the AGM, no special notice, nothing at all. Directly in the AGM, what will happen? That any person will raise his hand and say, I want to become a director. Straight away, he can be appointed. No, in a public company, there's a lot of procedure you have to follow. In a public company, if you have to appoint a person as director, special notice is required. Special notice means who takes the initiative? Shareholders. Certain specified shareholders, 14 days before the meeting, before the AGM, they should give that a special notice facing that I want to appoint so-and-so person as the director along with the deposit of 1 lakh. In turn, what the company has to do, 7 days before the meeting, they have to send individual notices to members if it is not possible, online notice, now email notice, everything is available, and also newspaper advertisement. Then the matter will go to AGM or EGM. After the ordinary and special business is over, the matters given in the special notice will be taken up. If the resolution is passed, he stands elected, otherwise defeated. This is the special procedure you have to follow. Board cannot take the initiative. So under 160, in the ordinary business or special business, you must not specify. So members must take the initiative. Now, I once again repeat, don't get confused with the 6 words. Ordinary business is the 4 business: approval of financial statement, director's report, auditor's report, declaration of dividend, appointment of directors retiring by rotation, appointment of auditors fixing the remuneration is ordinary business. Rest all the business are special business. On the day I discussed ordinary resolution means passed a number of votes in favor, more than number of votes against. Special resolution means number of votes is 3 times the number of votes against. What is the special notice? So notice means board will convene and hold the meeting. In special notice, what happens? Members will take the initiative and give the notice to the board, and board has to give 7 days notice. This whole process is called special notice. Right. So what is the procedure? The proposer, any one member can give along 40 days notice along with the deposit of 1 lakh. Then the company in turn, what they have to do, send individual notices or send email notice and place the website or give advertisement in 2 newspapers. At the general meeting, after the regular items, the matter in the special notice will be taken up for consideration. If the resolution is passed, the directors stand elected, otherwise defeated. That's all the special procedure is telling. Some other issues in 160. The word used in 160 is general meeting. So special notice can be given before the AGM or EGM. And any member, so even any member, if you hold 1 share also, you can give special notice. Preference shareholder is also a member, so he can also give special notice. You may ask me a question, sir, if he is holding 1 share or 10 shares or a preference shareholder, how will you get elected? That is second part of the story. maybe he is enjoying the support of other shareholders. If he is to be elected in the AGM, general or EGM, ordinary resolution majority has to be with him. So this is entry given to him very freely. Anyone can give special notice. And one more very intricate point, if you look at it, member can give special notice proposing himself or any other member or even outsider. Outsider means who is not a shareholder. And the section is worded in such a way, outsider also can give special notice proposing himself. He may not be a shareholder, but he will have the support of other shareholders. But outsider cannot give special notice proposing some other outsider or some other member. These people can give special notice. Deposit for the candidate. See, this point was recently added a few years back. Because, you see, if this deposit is not there, this facility will be misused. In a public company, take Reliance Industries Limited, 36 lakh shareholders are there, 36 lakh members. Any one member who has no chance of getting elected, he'll get a special notice. And the poor company secretary of Reliance, what he has to do before committing suicide, he has to give individual notices to 36 lakh members on newspaper advertisement. What 36 lakh, he may give, sorry, the individual member you may give notice proposing some 25,000 candidates. So the whole things can be misused. So they said deposit of 1 lakh. And this 1 lakh will be refunded if he gets elected, or you should get at least 25% of the total vote cast. You may be defeated, but you get some kind of appreciation or support, then it may be refunded. Now, let me tell to the chartered accountants, many companies, what they do, they take a check of this 1 lakh, keep in the cash box. They will never encash it. Blatant violation of the section. So the money has to come in their bank account, and tomorrow, if they are elected, then it will be refunded. So all this you have to carefully see. Then, of course, now the amendment says this deposit is not required in case of appointment of independent directors or a director recommended by the Nomination Remuneration Committee. If there's no such committee, then the board should recommend. Such case, deposit not required. Now, let us understand this point very clearly. You were an additional director, right? As an additional director, you hold office up to the AGM. Directly, you cannot enter the company and go as a rotational, non-rotational. So, after additional director, you should follow the procedure of special notice under 160 and then only go under 162 subsection 6 and 7. You become a rotational, non-rotational director. And please understand, after the first director's route is closed, this is the only one method by which you can enter the company based on your shareholdings. Additional director, casual vacancy, alternate, they are all appointed in special circumstances by the board. So therefore, if the additional director, casual vacancy, alternate office comes to an end, the only method is 160. No special concession to you. You also have to comply with the procedure given 160, special notice, deposit, all those things you have to simply follow. How about immediate appointment? See, just because you get a special notice from a member, no way it is written that the board should call the AGM or EGM. What the language says, 14 days before the meeting, there is a presumption the board has convened an annual general meeting or extraordinary general meeting to discuss some item of business. Then 14 days before, you can send a notice to them. Now, I have not convened any AGM or EGM, but I received a special notice. Should I convene based on special notice? Not required. Let him wait. After you convene the AGM or EGM, then only the special notice will be taken up. So if I want to appoint a director immediately, what should I do? I should go for 160 and 100 combination, requisition and extraordinary general meeting, and then give special notice. Otherwise, immediately the board may not convene the meeting for your convenience. These are all other small procedure compliance you have to comply. Declaration before appointment in, you are not disqualified, all that you have to give. And you are concerned in DR2. And after the appointment, DR12 has to be filed with ROC, update the register of directors. If it is a listed company, you must inform the stock exchange, refund of deposit. So this is how section 160, which applies only for public companies, whether you are listed or unlisted. It will not apply to private companies. Then one more section which applies only to public companies. Every listed company or public company having a paid-up capital 100 crores or turnover 300 crores must have at least one women director. So existing companies on 1/4 should comply within 1 year and new companies within 6 months of incorporation. Better late than never. It's a general way we try to understand women empowerment and things like that. Fine. I shall interpret this in a different way. We are all professionals. We are all chartered accountants. Our Sanatan Dharma says women is the Shakti. Please let us understand this. Disrespecting women is an insult to humanity. This is one point I would like to tell very clearly. In our Sanatan Dharma, we worship women as Shakti. You accept a wife. All other women in our culture is to be treated as mother or daughter, like that. And if equal status is given in our religion, in our constitution also to women. I have traveled very extensively to Western countries. In Western countries, unfortunately, I find women is treated more as a sexual doll. Beyond that, they don't get any respect at all. In Islam religion, women is given second-class status. So all this should change. We are equal partners in life. This should have come long back. Why do we require reservation? And the figures should be reduced. Why not a company with 25 lakhs and all? Anyway, at least a beginning is made. So women nowadays, more chartered accountants are getting through. They are all women because they focus, they concentrate. Their contribution for the country, their contribution family is great. So in this context, I thought I should tell you, a beginning has been made. So as of now, listed company and public company paid-up capital 100 crores or turnover 300 crores must have at least one women director. They made it compulsory. Anyway, interim vacancy should be filled up within the next board meeting or 3 months, whichever is later. One more section which applies only to public companies. Appointment of directors to be voted individually. I don't know, yeah. These sections are all irritating sections. They could have been removed. In my opinion, having understood company law, having gone through for the last 30 to 40 years, I still feel 100, 150 sections can be simplified and simply thrown out. The Britishers drafted all these sections 150 years back, and simply we are following it. When the New Companies Act came, I don't think the department has done good homework. I think the Central Council members, someone has to take all this with the department. Look at it. In a public company, that too in general meeting, it won't apply to board meeting. A motion for the appointment of 2 or more persons as directors by single resolution shall not be moved unless the proposal is agreed by the meeting. So what he is trying to tell, if you simplify all this, every director should be appointed by separate resolution so that he individually enjoys the confidence of majority shareholders. Negatively, if you put it, clubbing of 2 or more directors in a single resolution is void. Why? You look from the shareholder's point of view. I want Mr. A to be appointed. I don't want B to be appointed. You clubbed the resolution of A and B for appointment. Okay. Then see, I'm forced to vote because I want A to be appointed. I want at least A to be appointed. I don't want B. So the idea of the section is every director must be appointed by separate resolution. Over. You could have finished this section there. Okay, if 9 directors are appointed, every time 9 times you raise your hand. Over. Then the one's exception says, no, I want to appoint all the 7 directors, 6 directors by a single resolution. Then in that case, you says you pass two resolutions. First resolution is not appointment resolution. The first resolution that I am going to move such a resolution where later on 2 or more directors will be appointed unanimously. And that first resolution is a resolution which has to be passed unanimously without any vote against it. Then the second resolution, you pass ordinary resolution appointing A, B, C, D, E as the director. Why all this nonsense? You could have removed all these things anyway. Then a resolution moved in contravention is void whether or not objection is taken. Hey, look at this language. A contravention is void. So neither A is appointed nor B is appointed. Whether or not objection was taken, that means what? The company secretary passed the second resolution, appointment resolution, without passing the first resolution. Okay. The MD called the company secretary and told him, did you get the second resolution? Did you pass the resolution appointing 2 or more directors by single resolution? Yes, sir. Good. Did you get the first resolution passed? No, sir. Why? Now the company secretary says, okay, sir, it's my mistake. I did not get the first resolution passed. But the shareholders are also silent. What are you trying to say? What I'm trying to say, the silence amount to consent. No. Whether or not objection was taken. So silence will not amount to consent. Positive consent from the members is required for the first resolution. So if you club this appointment, just now we discussed 152 subsections as 7, also will not apply. So neither A is appointed nor B is appointed, and his automatic reappointment also will not apply to them. This is one section which applies only to public company. And even in the public company, it will apply only to general meetings. So in the board, you can appoint 2 or more additional directors by a single resolution and all. Next, it applies to Section 8 company. Small shareholders director. What is the small shareholders director? Somehow these concepts have not picked up in our country. I was in the stock exchange consultative committee when, say, about 15 years back, when the small shareholders director concept was introduced. So I'll give you the background. In fact, this concept was slightly borrowed from US. If you look at the corporate structure in the country, we find there are so many directors, first directors, rotational, non-rotational, additional directors, casual vacancy, alternate director, nominee directors, women director, and now independent director, all that. When you got so many directors, what is the need for the small shareholders director? Now, practically, if you look at the whole thing, practically, after the Satyam Computers episode, most of the directors dance to the tunes of promoter directors. That's a fact. Now, there are a lot of people in a company who have got stakes in the company. Who are all those people? Small shareholders who are not the promoters. Banks and financial institutions who are given loan. Debenture holders. Banks and financial institutions who are given the loans, then the debenture holders, ADR, GDR, so many people, creditors, debtors, so many people, workers have some direct or indirect interest in the company. There is no second opinion on that. So an idea was mooted, how to safeguard the interest of all these people. So originally this concept was public director. Originally they thought it should be a public director concept. But then the issue we raised in the consultative committee meeting was, if you bring the concept of public director, the first question arises, how many public directors we must appoint? Someone said majority. What? If you appoint a fellow on the road as a public director and they will run the management, highly idiotic. It cannot happen like this. Second thing, if you appoint 1 or 2 directors, what is the use? Decisions are taken by majority only. 1 or 2 persons, what is the use? Decisions are usually taken by majority. Then the next question arises, even you appoint a public director, you should give him powers. You should give veto powers to cut short, to take a decision. Then the businessman will not agree to all this. Then how will you appoint him? Government appointing them has been a failure. 408 directors in the old companies that governments appointing have never succeeded. So these were the issues which were pouring in. So how will you? So finally, we diluted the concept of public directors and we brought in the concept of small shareholders director in a very, reduced form. And somehow in India, this concept has not picked up at all. And even for listed company, we'll discuss that they have made it now optional. It is not compulsory to have them. So the idea is you take the case of Reliance Industries. There are 36 lakh members. Out of 36 lakh members, we found out, except for 10,000 members, 35 lakh 90,000 members were holding face value of the shares less than 1,000, 2,000 or 5,000. Less than 5,000 rupees face value was the shares they were holding. So their interests were never represented. They had a lot of grievances. The dividends when they have not received, then right shares, bonus shares when declared, they were not received. They wanted some representative on the board. Similarly, there are a lot of deposit holders. There are a lot of other people. So in a very diluted form, we introduced the concept of small shareholders director. So what are the special provisions in connection with the small shareholders director? Who is a small shareholder? Who is having face value, nominal value of 20,000 or less in a public company. So 10 rupees is the value of shares. If you hold up to 2,000 shares, you can be called a small shareholders director, a small shareholder. Then what kind of shares, whether equity or preference, it doesn't matter. And these small shareholders in a listed company may have one director. 3 points, please observe. Which companies have to appoint? Only listed companies out of those 20,000 companies, not every public company. And how many directors may have? Even listed company, they can ignore the section. It's not compulsory, it's not mandatory. And third issue is listed company also, how much maximum they will appoint? Only one small shareholders director. So this, then how will you appoint? It's something like special notice. It is not special notice. The initiative may be taken by the company or by a small shareholder. How many small shareholders will take the initiative? 1,000 small shareholders or 1/10, whichever is less. Stupidity, yeah. 1,000 people you have to take initiative. They are all spread over throughout the country. Who will take initiative? 1/10 of small shareholders. In a listed company, you got lakhs of shareholders. 1/10 means it is more than 1,000. Anyway, so they have to take the signatures of all of them and give it to the company 14 days before the meeting. But company need not circulate 7 days before and all that. Then the notice has to give DIN number is not disqualified consent. This, it is already there for all the directors. You know, the proposer need not hold any shares. Very important. The person who makes the proposal, the person who is going to be appointed as small shareholders director, need not hold any shares in the company, right? Then listed company, the other day we discussed yesterday, listed company has to go through the postal ballot only, this mechanism. Some of the other special points applicable to small shareholders director. Small shareholders director can be appointed for a maximum 3 years and he need not retire by rotation. That's why today I told you the total itself will remove the small shareholders director. He is neither rotational nor non-rotational. And he will hold office for 3 years. He cannot be reappointed. He has to go home. Familiarity breeds contempt. Anyway, the legislative mind is different. So let him not have any too much of attachment towards the company. Let him go home. And one more restriction, as a small shareholders director, in how many company I can hold office? Not more than 2 companies. I can hold as a director The other day we saw how many companies, 20 companies. In a public company, the 10 companies you can hold. So it is not 2 plus 10 or 20. The 2 will come within the 10 or 20. Right. Even in the second company, you cannot be appointed as small shareholders company if it is a competitive business. Suppose you are a small shareholders director in Rasi Cements Limited. You cannot be a small shareholders director in Priyadarshini Cements Limited. Even in the second company, it should not be in competitive business. So no, a person can be only in 2 companies and not more than 2. The second one should not be competitive, and you shall hold office only for 3 years. Obviously, you will not retire by rotation. And you should not be appointed for a period of next 3 years. After 3 years, there's a cooling period of 3 years. Then probably you can be appointed. And small shareholders director will not become MD or whole-time director. Obviously correct. After all, you are representing the interest of small shareholders. If you are a whole-time managing director, you obviously indirectly become a promoter's director. That should not happen. These are the special points. Rest of all the points which apply to a director under the Companies Act will apply to small shareholders director also. Is not given any other special privilege. So all of the sections will apply. For example, I want to remove a small shareholders. And one more issue before I come to that. One more issue. Now, when we go to independent director, we'll discuss. Now, businessman is shouting. Already we have independent director, again small shareholders director. What is all this nonsense? One concession is given. Okay, you do one thing. We'll discuss later on who will be independent director. If you fulfill the conditions of independent director, you yourself can hold office in 2 offices. One as small shareholders director, other as independent director. Fair enough. There is no restriction. Then what are the special points? You have to vacate your office, disqualification 167 if you fulfill the criteria. These points are there for regular directors also. I don't know why they have repeated. That's all. All of the sections the Companies Act will apply to small shareholders director also. One more catch point here. I want to remove a small shareholders director. I want to remove a small shareholders director. While appointing the small shareholders, only small shareholders will vote, not all the shareholders. But for removal, when I discussed in the private company, same provision, we never discussed any special provision. So when it comes to removal of small shareholders director, all the shareholders will participate and by majority can be removed. So the special points, special privilege of small shareholders director is over. So therefore, you have to comply completely with 169 for removal, and then all the shareholders will participate and it can be removed by ordinary resolution in general meeting. What I'm trying to say, the special provisions are over. All other provisions will apply to small shareholders directors. The next concept we'll spend some time is independent director. Lot of debate has taken place in the concept of independent director. Before I go into the provisions, I would like to spend some time. Why do we require the idea of independent director? Let the debate is open now. First, I will argue in a different way. The shareholders, debenture holders, deposit holders, banks, financial institutions, and creditors have pumped money into the company looking at the man behind the show, isn't it? People have invested money in Reliance Industries looking at Dhirubhai Ambani when he was alive and now Mukesh Ambani. People have pumped in money in Infosys looking at Narayan Murthy, man behind the show. Therefore, you cannot start with the presumption that promoter directors are always rogues and ruffians. They are scoundrels. They will siphon away the funds of the company. Auditors help them. Law cannot start with this presumption. At one end of the story, the whole shareholders, deposit holders, banks, financial institutions believe on the capacity and capability of the promoter director, managing director, and other whole-time directors and put the money inside. Then all of a sudden, why the clamor for independent director? What is the role of the independent director? And there was a talk also at some point of time, the whole management must be handed over to independent directors. Sorry, too much, isn't it? So first let us understand what is the role of this independent director. What is his role? Can he overrule the promoter director, managing director, business decisions, managerial decisions? When the promoter director, managing director suggest a particular method of production, can the independent director suggest some other method? Can the independent director have a say or a way in the personal policies of the company? What is his role? We must understand clearly. I'm not naming the company. In one particular company, the chairman managing director, very powerful person. His son was also a whole-time director. There were other 11 persons on the board. Now, some decision has to be taken, giving a 700 crore contract to some other company. The deliberation started. Believe it or not, except these two directors, the MD and the whole-time director, remaining 9 directors opposed the proposal. They said, sir, we have given the contract to the quotation who has quoted the highest. They want to give it to L&T. The other directors opposed and they said, sir, look, there are other people who are equivalently good. They can do much better than L&T and we can save about 50 crores, 70 crores, 80 crores. The argument was going on. I was sitting as a practicing company secretary in the meeting. Believe it or not, for 1 hour, the chairman managing director was trying to convince the directors, look, let us not take risk. This is high technology project. So just not see for 50-100 crores. L&T is the competent person. Lot of technical arguments went on and he put the reports of technical committee and convinced the directors. After 1 hour deliberation, 3-4 directors convinced, they said, okay. Another 1 hour. But I found 2 directors were going on arguing against. At one point, please look at me. At one point, the chairman managing director was very upset. He suddenly changed his posture. He just looked into the eyes of those 2 directors. Suddenly, the 2 directors stopped speaking. You know what was the body language of the MD? కొంచెం మాట్లాడమంటే కొంచెం ఓవర్గా మాట్లాడకురా చాలు. I think you got it. I asked you to speak. Come on, enough. This was the body language. And look at the audacity of the MD. The chairman MD, next sentence he said, I now take the resolution as carried unanimously. We'll now go to the next item of business. Now stop here. At one end, what has happened? The promoters, directors, and all the people have put money, the shareholders, everyone has put the money based on the promoter, director, MD, and all that. But then power corrupts a person, absolute power corrupts absolutely. See, if you look at all the scams which has happened in the last 10 years and 15 years in our country particularly, it is the concentration of power in the hands of these few people, particularly the managing director, whole-time director, promoter directors. Much of the scams have happened. You all know the role of auditor. I don't want to comment. Let us keep it aside. So what the government thought, there is no counter-checking, counterbalancing in the management. So what is the role of this independent director? The problem is the independent, there must be a director on the board, a few directors who can call a spade a spade. But they are all somehow connected to the company. They have shares in the company, they have debentures, they have got profitable contracts. They cannot go against the managing director. They cannot go against the whole-time director. So we want a person who can call a spade a spade. I used to tell my students, boss is always correct. When the boss says, hey, this is a white crow, what the article students must say, yes, sir, this is the white crow. If the boss says, hey, crows are always black here, how it can be white? Then what you should say, yes, sir, crows are black, it cannot be white. Then the boss says, I think some white paint might have fallen on this crow, so it is looking white. Then the article student must say, yes, sir, yeah, the white paint might have fallen. I'm not joking. This is how all the directors, you go and attend the top companies meeting. The MD or the man behind the show says something, other people simply say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. That's all. Board meetings are all just show up, except for Tata's or some other company. In the decisions are already predetermined, and the board gives color to the decisions already taken by MD. In this context, the government thought there should be 2-3 people or whatever it is on the board who can just call a spade, who can go got the guts to say this is wrong. And they are going to act like opposition leaders. Now, in the parliament also, if you see, I'm not talking of Indian parliament, general discussion, I'm saying, the opposition always opposes the decision of the ruling government. Yes, that is the duty. So like that, the independent director's role is not independently managing the management. Let's understand this. If the other directors, the promoted directors, managing director, whole-time director, violate any provisions of law or their decision are patently wrong, then probably they can interfere, not otherwise. This has to be understood clearly. And the law has not given a right to the independent director to overrule the decisions of the other directors, nor they are given any majority right. The thinking probably is most of the managerial decisions come to the board, and much of the scams could have been avoided if the independent directors perform their duty properly. So this is the beginning made in our country. Gone are the days where the promoted directors, managing director will have all the ways. In one company, MD's daughter was to be appointed as a, tomorrow's session I'll cover that. MD's daughter was to be appointed as a whole-time director on a remuneration of 4 to 5 lakhs per month. The independent director said no. The independent director said no. There are other people in the organization who have got 20, 30 years more experience. You cannot appoint. Now they say, have a say. In that context, the independent director has to do a checking role, a counter check role. That's all. They cannot take over the management as such. This is the underlying idea behind independent director. Let's see the provisions. Which company must compulsorily have independent director? Listed company, 1/3 must be independent directors, 1/3. If it is 12, 4 must be independent directors. If it's a fraction, rounded off as 1. No mathematical rule. If it comes to 0.33 also, you round off as 4. Other public companies, please see, private companies need not appoint independent directors. So other public companies, paid up capital 10 crores, turnover 100 crores, or outstanding loans, debentures, deposit 50 crores, must have at least 2 independent directors. There is a small rider. Please see. When I go to audit committee, my next decision, in audit committee, what they are saying, usually you must have minimum 3 directors in audit committee, and majority must be independent director. Now you take a case of audit committee where there are 5 directors and majority will be 3, and 3 must be independent director. Now in a situation where if it is a public company, not listed company, even though the section says 2 is enough, but because you are required to have more independent directors because of the higher audit committee, then that number of independent directors will be the minimum directors required. Then If there is a vacancy, it should be filled up in the next board meeting or within 3 months, whichever is later, just like this women director. Now, of course, these provisions of independent director will not apply to Section 8 company or unlisted joint venture company, wholly owned, dormant company, all that, even though their paid up capital or other requirements are fulfilled, it doesn't serve any purpose for them. Now, let's focus now. The idea behind independent director is he must not be directly or indirectly connected to the company. So they made it very clear. He should be a person of integrity and relevant experience. He should be an educated person of integrity, honesty, hard work. That's general comment. And you must have experience in these fields. We don't want too many people who is a doctor or who is an engineer and those people to have become independent directors. So he says you have knowledge and experience in finance, law, management, sales, marketing, administration, and so connected with the company's business. He should be highly qualified person. And he should not be MD, whole-time director, or even nominee director. Fair enough, because you are representing you are going to cross-check the work of these people. So obviously, next, see the level of independence. Such person should not be a promoter or related to the promoter directors of holding subsidiary or associate. Now let me take Nagarjuna Group for understanding. I am going to be appointed as independent director in Nagarjuna Fertilizers. So I should not be a promoter of Nagarjuna Fertilizer, Nagarjuna Holding, Nagarjuna Subsidiary, Nagarjuna Agri-Chemicals, Nagarjuna Finance. You understand that whole conglomerate of companies. So I should not be a promoter or relative under the Companies Act to the promoter or any director of these group companies. First is qualification. Second, I should not have any pecuniary relationship. Pecuniary means I should not hold any shares, I should not be a debtor, I should not be a creditor, I should not have given guarantee, no any financial transaction at all. Listen carefully. Again, not with that company. If I'm going to be appointed as independent director in Nagarjuna Fertilizer, I should not have any financial transaction with the Nagarjuna Fertilizers, Nagarjuna Holdings, Nagarjuna Associate, or with the promoters and directors independently during the last 2 years preceding, other than the current year. I should not. But my relatives, for relatives alone, come on, you can have hold shares in these companies not exceeding 25 lakhs or 2% of paid up capital. Listen carefully. I must not hold any shares, but my relatives can hold up to 2% of paid up capital or 50 lakhs in the last 2 years. Similarly, my relatives, they can have the indebtedness does not exceed 50 lakhs. They have some transactions and the amount payable to them shall not exceed 50 lakhs. Similarly, guarantee and all with these people in the last 2 years should not exceed at 50 lakhs. Then have any other pecuniary relationship of 2% of the gross total income are combined all together. So relative some concessions are given. Now, next, who himself or relatives should not hold the KMP or employee in the holding the last 3 years. Listen carefully. Now let us say I going to be appointed in Nagarjuna Fertilizer. I and my relatives, look at the language, all together, we should not be a director or an employee or company secretary or finance CFO, KMP in any of those group companies in the last 3 financial years. Of course, this amendment, the relative who is an employee, you can be in the last 3 years. Similarly, I should not be an employee or proprietor or partners in the financial years in a firm of auditors or company secretaries or cost account. Listen, let us say, let us take one KPMG. Now, KPMG has been the auditor or some Jairam Radhakrishna associates, the company secretaries of any of these companies In this firm of company secretaries or auditors or cost accountants, I should not have been a partner or an employee in the last 3 financial years. Similarly, one legal firm, they are giving legal consultancy firm to these group companies. I should not have been the employee, proprietor, a partner in 3 financial years. And together hold with the relatives 2% or more of the total voting power of the company. Is a chief executive or director of non-profit receives 25% of receipts from the promoters directors. For example, let us say Nagarjuna Spiritual Trust. One trust is there. In Naga, let us say I am going to be appointed in Nagarjuna Fertilizers and Chemicals Limited as independent director. In Nagarjuna Spiritual Trust, I should not be chief executive or director. If that Nagarjuna Fertilizers and Chemicals Limited or their holding company and all, come on, they are contributing 25% or more to the Nagarjuna Spiritual Trust, or they hold 2% of the total voting power. So these calmly look at it, the government considers all this as independent. Pecuniary relationship means you can have remuneration not exceeding 10%. Now, recently they have introduced some qualifications and tests to be conducted if you want to become independent director. There are a lot of people who are qualified. I am also qualified to be appointed as independent director. What is that? Those people, 1st December 2019, not 2020, this is almost 13 months over now, nearly. Individual who is appointed before 2019 shall within 13 months, this is the amendment. Earlier it was 5 months, 7 months, some 4 days back, they have amended. So the time now available is up to 31st December 2020. Clear? So another 5 days time is available. This is for those people who were appointed before 1st December 2019. And thereafter, those who are going to be appointed after 1st December 2019 as independent director, before such appointment, they should pass one online test conducted by the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. And once they qualify, the name will be put to the data bank. And you can be for 1 year or 5 years or lifetime. Accordingly, you have to pay the fees. Also, individual shall apply not having DIN voluntarily by. Next, the individual shall pass the online proficiency test within 1 year, failing which the name will be removed from the data bank. So all the existing directors, independent director, within 1 year, they have to qualify with the test. 100 marks paper is there, you have to qualify. But the test need not be written for those people who are already director of KMP for 10 years, listed company, these requirements. They need not, because they have got enough experience, they need not pass the test. Now, then you have to make an application for renewal within 30 days, all this. They have to give a declaration. Next. What is the role of the independent director? I told you they are not required to retire by rotation. They can be appointed for 2 consecutive terms of 5 years. I don't understand the logic. Small shareholders must not hold office for 3 years, but independent director hold office for 5 years. They can be reappointed for another 5 years. But they can be appointed less than 5 years also. Then a cooling period of 3 years. During the cooling period, you should not be connected with the company in any direct or indirect way. Now, what about the remuneration payable for independent directors? They can be given stock options. This is the amendment now. Stock options, sitting fees, traveling expenses, everything they will get. Profit-related commission, subject to the approval of the board. Now, what about the liability of this independent director? They are liable only for those offenses committed with their knowledge, connivance, or negligence of the board, and which comes to the board level. See, those which are happening at the management level, fine, I cannot do anything. You matter has come to the board and you are aware of it. Your knowledge, convenience, and negligence only, you will be liable. They have reduced the liability of independent director. And apart from that, there's a code of conduct for independent directors in Schedule 4. They have to be follow all that code which is given. Now, how will you appoint the independent director? The board will select the independent director based on the skill, experience, and all. The appointment should be approved by the shareholder ordinary resolution. And the explanatory statement should give all that. I told you they can be reappointed for another 5 years only on performance evaluation. This is the height. These independent directors should hold at least one meeting in a year without the attendance of other directors and members of management. Suppose there are 3 independent directors or 4 independent directors. All the 3 or 4 independent directors, will sit without the presence of others. And what they will do in the meeting? One meeting, assess the performance of the non-independent directors, board as a whole, chairman of the company, and access of quality of flow of information. That is fine. Or who are you to assess the performance of the other directors, board as a whole? Suppose you are in the board of Reliance Industries. Do the independent directors have the guts of commenting about Mukesh Ambani? Mukesh is not coming on daily basis. He is concentrating more on IPL matches. Do you have the guts to say all that? Anyway, a beginning has been made. So this is all welcome measures in case of independent directors. So this was the discussion on the directors. The next I thought I will discuss was, now yesterday I discussed that audio, video conference general meetings, video conference board meetings are also now allowed for public companies. Every company has to make arrangement for video audio conference. These are all general guidelines to give the safeguard proper video facilities that keep the record, all these points. Now in this special point is, notice should be sent to the directors as usual. The notice must inform the directors about such facility available. See, the intending director, is it compulsory? If the director asks for video conferencing, I repeat, it is compulsory. It is not optional for public companies. Or if the director makes his own arrangement for video conferencing, the company has to reimburse. Please look at the language. The intending director shall communicate the chairman sufficiently in advance to enable to make sufficient arrangements. The request is valid for 1 calendar year, January to December. Even after saying that I will attend through video conference, I can come and participate personally also. Right. Then at the roll cap, all is to be, and these are technical things. You have to repeat all those points. Right. The director participating shall be counted for the purpose of quorum. Interested director also will be counted for quorum. No, sorry. Those who are not physically present through video conference, you will count for quorum. Then all this. Then no other person other than the chairman should be present. So these are all guidelines to the company secretary and chairman that you should conduct the meeting properly, all that. Then let's go to quorum in case of public company board meetings. The quorum, as discussed in private company, total strength means the total, all including interested directors. For original honorary director, we treat it as 1 person. We discussed that in private companies. Who is the interested director? Interested director means as specified in 184. So interested directors in a public company will not be counted for the purpose of quorum. Whereas in private company, you can be counted. Quorum. So normal quorum is 1/3 or 2, whichever is higher. Just now I told you those who participating with video conference will be counted for quorum, and 1/3 shall be rounded off as 1. Then now let us see. Suppose there are 12 directors. Obviously 1/3, 4 is the quorum. 11, 3 point something, 4. 10, 3.33 also, 4 will be the quorum. 987 and 987 will be 3. 654 will be 2. 3, 2 also, 2, 2 only. 1 person will not constitute the quorum. Now, concessional quorum, please see. where the number of interested directors are exceeding or equal to 2/3, the number of remaining directors who are not interested present at the meeting not less than 2 shall be the quorum. Please see one question. Suppose, let us say, totally there are 12 directors. Out of 12, 7 is interested. 8 directors attend the meeting. Out of 8, 5 is interested. Is the quorum present? Now, step by step, let us see. What should be the quorum? Total is 12. Whether they attend or not is interest. Whether interested or not, we are not bothered. So 12 into 1/3 is 4. So 4 should be the quorum. Now, how many people came? 8. How many are interested? 5. 5 they cannot. 8 minus 5, 3. So there is no quorum. This is how you have to calculate the quorum. So in 1/3 of 12, here interested directors will be included. That's why we said total strength, it will include everyone. So then, this quorum. Slightly change the, so there is no quorum. Slightly change. The same question, instead of 7, I made it as 8. Is there quorum present? In the earlier case, I could not take advantage of concessional quorum. Concessional quorum comes when the total interested directors, not attending the meeting, total interested directors are 2/3 or more. So 12 and 8, I entered into concessional quorum. So normal quorum is not there, 4, but concessional quorum I can take advantage. 3 only are present. So concessional quorum 2 is there. So quorum will be present. This is how you have to do the calculation in public companies. Then if number of directors are reduced below quorum, already we discussed in private companies also, the remaining directors can continue. And for appointing additional directors or summoning general meeting, not for any other purpose. If all the directors are interested, the department came with the clarification, you appoint a disinterested additional director, this is not possible, or refer the matter to general meeting. Because if there is no quorum, they cannot discuss in the board meeting as such. Then section 179 subsection 3, the powers are to be exercised only at the board meeting. So this section was not applicable to private company. It is applicable to public company. So these cannot be done at the resolution by circulation. It has to go to the board. Directors should sit across the table, discuss the pros and cons, and take the decision. So all are financial based areas. Plus they have now added approval of financial statement, diversify, amalgamation, takeovers, and in the rules also they said making political contributions, appointment to remove KMP, internal auditor, secretarial auditor, all this has to be done at board meeting only. Hey, appoint and remove KMP. CFO cannot be removed by MD, cannot be removed by audit committee, cannot be removed by resolution by circulation. It has to go to the meeting of the board. Appointment, company secretary appointment, removal. All these points, please go through. Internal auditor, secretarial auditor. They have to go to the board meeting level in public companies. And this is another very interesting point you find. This MGT 14 has to be filed for special resolution. But in a public company, for these items, where also MGT 14 has to be filed. And if you don't file, see, the company is punished with not less than 1 lakh, which may go up to 25 lakhs. And the officer in default 50,000 to 5 lakhs. These are all the areas we do the slip. When you make a call, MGT 14, when you issue debentures in public company, please go through all this very carefully. Then, of course, they are not allowed for inspection. Of course, in private company, they are not required to file. There's restrictions on the powers of the board. So these things the board will exercise after passing resolution in the general meeting. Right. What are those powers? Prior approval has to be taken. Special resolution. What are disposal of the undertaking? To sell, lease, or otherwise dispose the whole or substantially the whole of the undertaking, or where they own more than one undertaking, the whole of the undertaking. See, let's understand first. Otherwise dispose means there is a justum generis, means sell, lease, or otherwise disbursements disposing the undertaking similar to sale or similar to lease. Then another point, undertaking, he has used the word. Undertaking means not the assets of the company, the land, buildings, plant and machinery. You should understood as a profit center, not as a cost center. So gifts all will not attract the section, right? Now, they have specifically stated what is undertaking. The word undertaking means investment of the company exceeding 20% of net worth of the audited balance sheet, or which generates 20% of total income. Beautiful. Now they have simplified the whole thing. So undertaking means the value that you have 2-3 business or whatever it is, the value of the undertaking with respect to total investment exceed 20%. Then substantially the whole of undertaking means 20% of the value of that undertaking as per balance sheet. So special resolution is required. Then investing other than in trust securities, the amount of compensation they receive because of merger amalgamation. See, there is a merger amalgamation which has taken place and huge money is received in maybe crores of rupees. Until the shareholders take a decision, you keep in trust securities. You want to keep in some other securities other than the trust securities, then probably shareholders approval will be required. Third, borrowings in excess of paid-up capital free reserves, apart from temporary loans. See, these things you have to be very careful. That's why most of the time when you take term loans and all that, they'll ask the special resolution because shareholders are affected. In simple words, debt equity more than 2:1, shareholders approval is required by special resolution. Then it should be specify the outer limit. Then remit or give time for the repayment of debt due from a director. Remit or give more time for the debt due from a director. How the money of the company went to the director is not the subject of discussion. Let us say legally you are given. Now instead of returning the money, he wants some discount, he wants more time. So let the shareholders approve by special resolution. Now come to audit committee. So listed company and public companies 10 crores, 100 crores, 50 crores, the same like independent directors requirement. You must have an audit committee. Now, please see. Why this audit committee? Practically, let us understand, since you are all auditors, you will appreciate this point. In many companies we found, auditor, the statutory auditor in particular finds the MD or whole-time director is too small a person for him to report. Rather, all the wrong things he is only handling, he is only doing. The report is against the MD only, and board becomes too big to report. In many of you, you might have seen as a statutory auditor in the board meeting, the MD will not allow you to speak at the board meeting, even if you attend. MD will put his foot down. He will say, okay, these things we can discuss across the table. I don't think you should bring it to the knowledge of the board and waste their time. Many companies have seen statutory auditor is also fed up. When the board is not prepared to listen to his ideas, views, reservations, explanations and all, he is also fed up. So the MD is too small a person to report, board is too big a person to report. So the via media between these two is audit committee. Second is, most of the cases the board do not have finance professionals. Usually, many of them are technical people and they don't understand many things. They don't have time to go into all those things. The via media is audit committee. And all silly objections are raised in the board meeting, which will irritate the statutory auditor or internal auditor. The answer is audit committee. And there is a strong feeling much of these scams could have been avoided if the auditors have performed their duty properly. Another very important point is there is a constant fight in most of the companies between statutory auditor and internal auditor. It is like Tom and Jerry, the cartoon serial, both fighting with each other at various levels. The statutory auditor says that, I take all the responsibility, including the internal auditor's job and all. Internal auditor feels I'm doing the donkey's work and the payment is very less compared to the job and the payment received by the statutory auditor. The solution is audit committee. Then the trouble is internal auditor, finance manager, internal auditor, statutory auditor, everyone, you please come. Let there be a lot of committee meetings. Let us put forward our views to the directors who are financially qualified. They can put up properly in the board. So this audit committee concept has worked out very well in Western countries. So now the audit committee with a lot of responsibilities. The board will constitute, only directors can become member. You must have at least 3 directors, independent directors forming majority in the audit committee. Now, they may see the chairman of the board will not automatically become. The audit committee will appoint their own person as chairman. Majority of members must have ability to read and understand financial. I think this is a very bad language. They could have used a better language. Ability to read and understand, that is not the issue. Anyway, the import behind the statement is that they should be properly qualified. They never said it should be a chartered accountant. So the old audit committees has to be reconstituted. Now, who will, in audit committee, the auditors and KMP has a right to be heard. All the statutory audit, the word is used is auditors, statutory auditor, internal auditor, cost auditor, secretarial auditor. Anyone can come and attend compulsorily the audit meeting, and whatever I'm telling you must listen to me. And the KMP, look at the language, the company secretary, the CFO, all these people can attend, but they will not have right to vote. Voting will be only in the hands of directors, including independent director. And the chairman of audit committees to attend the AGMs. And audit committee shall meet at least 4 times in a year. And the gap should be 1/3, whichever is higher. And they should disclose the role and function. See, recommend for the appointment and remuneration of auditors. The other day I was telling you, gone are the days where MD will take a decision and appoint his friend as auditor. Now it has to go to audit committee. Review and monitor the auditor's independence, performance, and effectiveness. Real role. See, the other day when I was discussing private companies, I told that information explanation whether it was given, because the auditor is not doing, is a watchdog, not a bloodhound. If the information explanation is wrongly given to the auditors, then audit is an exercise in waste. Or if you don't get the information explanation also, it's an audit in waste, I told you. So you report there. Did I get all the information explanation required for the purpose of audit? Then here, financial statements, auditor's report draft has to be put up, approval of related party transactions. They may pass omnibus resolution. All this has to go to the audit committee. Then, whether this 188 loans, related party transaction, everything, then loans, intercorporate loans, investment, evaluation of internal financial control systems, monitoring the use of funds through public offers. Each point, if I sit, it will take hours together. There are at present more than 20,000 listed companies. SEBI has released a list of 2,000 listed companies where there is no registered office. Directors are bogus, missing. Shameful, isn't it? Vanishing companies. They have released a list of 2,000 listed companies who have looted public money and gone. So sad in this country. Now, in the last 10 years, we have strengthened everything. So now the audit committee duty is, when you go for a public issue, whether the funds were properly used for the purposes. Let the audit committee monitor. You have to take the audit committee quite seriously. It is no nonsense committee. They have got independent powers like that of the board. They can discuss any matter with internal statutory auditors. They can investigate on the matter. They can obtain professional advice from external sources. No one can object it. You can talk to the institute. You can talk to the Big Four or someone. You have complete access to the information. So this is the audit committee, which does a very good job, supposed to do a good job. Vigil mechanism, Vigil committee. This is a new concept introduced. What is this Vigil mechanism? I'll take the case of Satyam Computers. How is that possible? The managing director and the CFO and few other persons were continuously manipulating the accounts with the knowledge of internal auditor or even statutory auditor, we do not know. And they have been manipulating the accounts for the last 10 years and manipulated to the extent of thousands of crores of rupees. You mean to say most of the employees and other directors are not aware of the fraud? Yes, they were aware. But then the problem will be, come on, you dare not have the guts to report. Whom will report? If the MD himself is involved in the fraud, whom I will report? The answer is Vigil mechanism. He used only one sentence. The Vigil mechanism is available for the directors and employees to report their grievances and concerns. One sentence, yes, finished. What is the grievance and concern? Not your private grievances, pertaining to company. It's a broad term. Harassment, misuse of funds, using wrong production ideas. It could be anything which is damaging or causing loss to the company. Now the mechanism is available. Any person can walk into the Vigil committee. In case of listed company, or you accepted deposits from the public, or borrowed money from the bank's financial institutions. It could be private company also, from bank financial institutions in excess of 50 crores, must have a Vigil mechanism. Companies are required to, so you can do one thing. Audit committee itself can do the function of the Vigil mechanism. But if members of the audit committee is the complaint against them, they shall excuse themselves from the committee. You will otherwise, in other cases, when you don't have the nominating committee, board shall nominate one person, and the Vigil mechanism is there, must be communicated to the whole organization. The details must be in the board report, website, and all that. So any person can just walk into the Vigil director level person and say, sir, this man is siphoned away this system is wrong, sir. This mostly not only funds, any grievances he can tell. It is in the best interest of the company. So these things, so prevention is better than cure. Of course, the Vigil mechanism will provide adequate safeguards against victimization. So you're not supposed to touch that employee, demote him or transfer him if he reports. You shall have direct access to chairperson of audit committee. If you complain frivolous complaints, some people may misuse this and always try to harass certain people. That also cannot happen. A beginning has been made. Vigil mechanism is compulsory. It's called Vigil committee also. Nomination and remuneration committee. Nomination remuneration committee. Let us practically understand. Men may come, men may go. In the last 30 years or 40 years, say in Reliance Industries, directors may change. Products may change. Machines will be replaced. Methods and procedures will change. Creditors will change. Debtors will change. Life is a process of change. But you understand, organization is not made out of sand, bricks, steel, and cement, but with the flesh and blood of the people. If Reliance or Tatas have come to this level, it is only because of the employees working there. Today, unfortunately, in our country, employees means hire and fire. Not only in our country, throughout the world. I was given to understand Microsoft, the biggest problem is white elephants. The top 1,000 employees are getting millions of dollars as their salary. Their motivation, morale, everything is lost today. How to remove them, how to throw them. So the young employees, the managers who are in the age group of 40s and 50s or even 30s, ego problem, the top management never listens to them. One of the main reasons for downfall of Microsoft in the eyes of Apple and other thing is this white elephants there sitting at the top. These are all big issues today. So let not the top management directly interfere with the employees. Today we don't call it a HRD. We don't call it as personal management. It's no longer management. We call it human resource development. Narayan Murthy made a statement, the saddest day in my life is when an employee leaves my Infosys. He says, when an employee is leaving my organization means I am not able to create an atmosphere in the organization which will attract him. It's very sad for me if he leaves. Organizations are made out of the people, committed people. So therefore, how to motivate the employees? Employees management has become so difficult. There's different concepts like morale, motivation, this, that, and all. How to make the remuneration policy? Hire and fire case cannot happen. I'll take one small example. Forget about a company. In the Supreme Court also, if the Chief Justice retires, the next senior most person will take care of Chief Justice. Suppose the government feels the next Chief Justice is going to stay for only 10 days. So why give him Chief Justice for 10 days, after which another person will hold the Chief Justice for next 2 years. So what the government thought, it's a waste of time. So they bypassed that person and appointed the next senior most as Chief Justice. Will he keep quiet? No. Nyayamurthy. I was not made Chief Justice. Let it be 1 day, 2 days. He will resign. So therefore, how sweat equity came only in that. How to award honest, not honest, how to award employees who directly contributed for the profitability of the organization. I'm not sure. They were all, you all know to some extent. Pranav Rai, NDTV is running because only of him, and also the other man, Republic, runs because of him. So there are some people who directly contribute for the profitability. So how to reward? How to take care? 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 employees are there. So if their morale and motivation is affected, yeah, it's a big issue. So nomination remuneration committee. It is a listed company. It's almost like audit committee constitution. Should have a nomination remuneration committee. It should consist of non-executive directors, chairperson, all this. What is the role of this nomination remuneration committee? Identify the persons who become a director. Beautiful. In some of the listed companies, I found that MD's grandmother or grandfather also is a director who is aged 85 years, and the grandmother cannot speak English, or she has never seen the factory. Why they are made a director? Now people can question. If you want to become a director, you should be properly qualified. You should have experienced. You should have the ability. Why should we pay sitting fees of 1 lakh rupees? Identify. You lay down the policy. Let them fit into the policy. Identify persons, not only top managerial person, but also those who are fit to become a director. Criteria to become a director, who are qualified. Recommend the board for the appointment and removal. Though we saw in the Companies Act, just like that, we can throw out a director. Let there be internal reasoning. It's not hire and fire policy. Even at the top management level, nomination remuneration committee, let the recommendation come. The need for additional director, the need, let's say, be absolute professionalism on the board. This is better corporate governance. If you want to read corporate governance, look at L&T. You'll get the corporate governance there. Then specify the manner of evaluation of the performance of the board. Not only the senior employees, perform the method of perform committees, individual directors by the nomination by independent external agency, and review the implementation and compliance. We don't want white elephants, throw them out. When we are paying remuneration of crores of rupees, not lakhs, let them contribute for the managerial effectiveness of the organization. Formulate the criteria for qualification for the attribute. Recommend a policy relating to remuneration of KMP and other employees. Don't change it frequently. No out-of-turn promotions. No suddenly one person with because they have the recommendation of the board coming into the board. At the same time, we don't want to follow only seniority policy, then inefficiency will creep in. You decide benefit package, work. It is not just work to what extent related to performance. All that, let them decide a policy. Let everyone go with their policy, recruitment policy, selection policy, promotion policy, dismissal policy, transfer policy. Let them come under that. There is one company who takes their employees only on caste and other consideration. Let it not happen. There is one company who says we'll take people only from friends and relatives. Fair enough. That is a policy. With one company says these workers will take only from employment exchange. Fine. Policy. Decide. Let not the personal manager dictate the terms. Once a system is established, things will go properly under the system. And this nomination remuneration committee shall ensure level and composition of remuneration is reasonable to attract. The concept of free lunch has gone. If you have recruited a finance manager with 1-2 years experience after qualification for just 20, 25,000 or 30,000, you are a fool. He's not going to stay for long. If you look at the background of Reliance Industries, Tata's and other companies, Infosys, their payment used to be much more than other companies. Their policy is you pay 1 lakh and extract work equivalent to 1.5 lakhs. The concept of, so I've been telling this game. If you pay enough, you'll get good talent. If you throw peanuts, you'll get monkeys. As simple as that. So therefore, come on, pay. Level and composition should be to attract the talent. There are people in software industry, they won't come for 2 lakhs, means you have to pay for 2 lakhs. And the relationship should be very, what are the benchmarks? There should be a balance between the fixed pays and incentives, short-term objectives and all. So and the policy should be put in the website. Not the policy provisions will not apply to section. Then stakeholders relationship committee. If you have 1,000 shareholders, debenture holders, so from the heading itself, we did not say shareholders, stakeholders. So their grievances can be taken up at the board level. That committee must be there, constituted by the board. It will have so-and-so members. So the ability is to good faith will not constitute a consideration. So come on, a lot of listed companies, secretarial department is practically dismantled. Thousands of shareholders' grievances are not attended. So let us have a committee of the board. You represent, they'll take up the matter with the board. That is the idea. So thank you very much. I think we had a session today. So don't miss the tomorrow's session. So tomorrow I will be discussing mostly about the managerial person, remuneration payable to them and other areas, which is relevant in case of public companies. Thank you. Thank you all for your patient hearing. So I think the organizers, someone there?
Sir, 1 minute, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. Actually, it was, it is not unmuting. Sir, thank you, Jayaraman sir, for your spectacular presentation on the today's topic, various type of directors and role of audit committee. And hope all the members present here would have clarified their doubts regarding this topic with your excellent presentation. Thank you. And I thank all the members for joining today and participating in the program. Tomorrow is also very important topic and very confusing topic. Really, even every time one client asks you the question regarding key managerial person and managerial remuneration, we start reading the book. So please join tomorrow also, and it will definitely benefit for you. Thank you, one and all. With this, the meeting is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you.